long man, or long men, several long men who have very long-reaching totems. It's a totem build, a melee totem build. If you're looking here just for the time codes or POB, I will post it in the description below. The POB will be to the original creator of this build, which is a guy named Everdread. He showed me the build, and it is an interesting experience. It does everything I wanted to do, as well as everything I could possibly wish for moving forward. We'll be talking a little bit about the gear, about the crafting maybe, definitely the passive tree and the tattoos, because this build is dependent on tattoos. The title is Long Man. You'll see soon enough why. But this is also, once again, a result of my search for different ways to approach Val Temple farming, but also taking into consideration Sanctum. Sanctum has been absolutely broken this league. The amount of currency you can farm in there is absolutely obscene. So I'm looking for something that can do both Val Temple farming, which is what I enjoy the most, as well as, assuming it doesn't get nerfed, have an answer to being able to do Sanctum well. Poison does it acceptably well, but you want more direct crit or hard-hitting hits, preferably from a place of safety that you don't have to deal with, so you can avoid while everything else does damage. And this does just that. The totems destroy everything. This is still very much a leveling process. Most of the gear is done. It's only a matter of getting some levels and fine-tuning the passive tree. But the totems can pretty much off-screen because of the tattoos. It also destroys every corpse on the screen as a result of some mastery stuff we'll go over. And it just is able to handle every single mod in the Val Temple farm, while also being able to destroy uber bosses quite safely. Unlike certain other totem builds, like Shockwave for example, they are very, very squishy. This one has a little bit more beef to it, while still being able to destroy pretty much most uber bosses in mere moments, as well as everything the rest of the game can throw at you. So hopefully you'll enjoy this build. It is definitely not for the faint of heart. Totems are not really appreciated, but as you can see, we are moving very fast. I'm actually slowing down for the gameplay itself, because as you saw in the very beginning, the leap slam is absolutely nuts. I don't know how to control it very well. Perhaps you guys can give me some tips on that. I'm more of a walk simulator Andy, and these leap slams are absolutely nutty. Anyway, let's get into the thick of the build, and let me show you what I've been working on. Now, as I said earlier, this is a build made by Everdread, a fellow Val farmer. Say that 3 times fast. Fellow Val farmer. My God. So this is my gear progression, but the POB in the description box below will hold their creation. So if you are wondering why certain things may be different, it's because I have some ideas on how to improve in the end game once I'm done leveling. Because right now, we are not max level, we are 88. And in terms of gear, which is why you are here, we will have the following. It is another Mage Blood build. This league, I have been granted access to a Mage Blood. I've done some labs, and it's been a lovely experience to feel what the gods typically play with in the leagues. But it is also a melee build, so let's start with that. We have an Atziri's Disfavor Val Axe, incredible damage there. Support gems are phenomenal for this. Attack speed plus weapon range. Very, very important, because we're seeking to hit the enemy from very, very far away with those totems. Speaking of totems, Wilma's Requital, Solaris Circlet. I do have a lab runner trying to go for a corruption. There's no need to go socketed corruption, it's just a max life corruption. This is pretty much spot on, high accuracy with the perfect enchantment. It is wonderful. We do have an old favorite of mine, the Eternal Struggle, in this case with attack damage and global physical damage. Those are some of the highest damage increasing implicits. There are others that work really well as well. Some good chunk of stats. And more importantly, the Exarch is dominant, as you can see. We have Searing Exarch Exceptional, which allows us to get the 15% cull, which does work through the totems. Very, very good. Speaking of things that are very, very good, we have the Replica Svarul Fur. This is the first time that I'm using this, at least the replica version. I've never actually used this, which is the cat continuous green look that my character continuously gets. We have it automated, which is very, very lovely. It's just some nice stats, but it's mostly just to keep those permanent charges up indefinitely. Very, very lovely. The onslaught is not important because we're using a Mage Blood onslaught, which is far better. What is incredibly good is this ring that I finished crafting today. Tier 1 life, Tier 1 mana, crafted damage, cast speed, good elemental resist. I would have preferred a chaos resist here. That would have been the actual GG, and a Tier 1 attack speed as well, because Wilma's, of course. Speaking of the other ring, we have another implicit. Oh, for the record, this is also a vulnerability on hit synthesized, which is how we do our curse. We only have one curse. We have another synthesized for the -3 mana cost, which is important to make our stuff free. We also have a little bit of increased damage while leeching, which is what we're always doing. You will see later in this video as to why on the Atlas tree. We have some life unveiled, some rarity, which is what I hit on the slam. Nothing special, not important. We have the mandatory non-channeling craft to bring the cost further down. Cast speed, Tier 1 attack speed, and Tier 1 intelligence. Incredible luck there on the essence spam of me. But what didn't require any luck is this pretty deterministically and very mandatory craft. We have some life. We have an Exalt Slam here, increased armor. We have a basic craft. You could try to go for an Ailing and then maybe craft some life. Not really important because we only care about the 0.2 meters to melee strike. Fractured Chaos Res. The Socket of Gems is an Essence modifier, and the 20 aspect is a Beast craft. So the only thing you really have to RNG here is the Unveil, which is very, very likely to do. And then just craft it. It's very deterministically crafted, this wonderful pair of gloves, assuming you have Chaos Fracture. What isn't as deterministically crafted is the non-Val Strike skill target 2 additional nearby enemies. It's an incredible quality of life, not mandatory. You can get around and destroy everything with 1. But if you want to maximize it, I would recommend going down the route of the double conflux, trying to go from 3 to 4, from 4 to 5, because if you try to go from 4 to 5, it's going to cost a lot more money, as far as I've been able to calculate. And the mandatory 15 Impale using the 3rd tier, the Grand tier of Eater of Worlds. Mandatory to, well, actually not mandatory. You can actually stick to 10%, I believe, as well, if I'm not mistaken. But 15 certainly hits it. We have to check the POB for that. We also have a Dawn Strider, a boot that I thought I would never use, but here we are with some maximum endurance charges. I would have preferred a double corruption, but these guys, of course, don't drop naturally, so it's very difficult to find them. You have to manually double corrupt them, which is not something a lot of people want to do. It is lovely life roll, wonderful movement speed, and of course, because we are using the ancestor totems, it is just very lovely to have those totems have a lingering buff, because it also affects our movement speed, basically. And of course, the Mage Blood, we have accuracy rating while you have Onslaught. This is not mandatory. This is just what I happened to hit when I was running my labs. You could go for armor while fortified, because we are permanently fortified as a champion. On top of that, it's just resistance modifiers. I'm actually going to switch these to attribute modifiers, because that means more strength, and more strength means more life. And also, I can maybe do some tattooing furthermore on the actual Atlas tree without having to worry. In terms of flasks, we have the Progenesis that I've been using since my Forbidden Rite build. You have seen it. We have a wonderful silver flask. I still have to roll 70% on it, but max roll attack speed, 69% avoid being shocked. This is in combination with a Storm Shard, you will see later. On a Ruby flask, we have the typical Mage Blood mana cost reduction, 69% again. And of course, 69 on the cast speed on a Topaz as well. Since we don't have spell suppress in this build, this is kind of helping us stay alive in combination with Fortify and all our other defensive layers. Is it all 69? It is all 69. Very nice. The gems are also truly outrageous. A lot of old qualities, a lot of 21s that I happen to be hitting. So let's go through them. On the weapon, we have the mandatory Impale. To get the 60% impale chance, obviously, and just more damage. You notice once again that there's a lot of extra quality because of the weapon. Very powerful stuff. So old qualities can really carry hard here. Speaking of old qualities, Divergent Ancestral Protector, not mandatory, but actually no, this is mandatory because the activation range makes it so you can walk away further and the totem stays active. And we are, of course, going to walk around quite quickly or jump around. So this is incredible quality of life. Plus the totems have very, very long reach. So we definitely want to keep that going. Divergent multiple totem support, a tremendous amount of increased totem damage as a result of the weapon and this ult quality. But if you want to have faster totem speed, it is a quality of life while leveling. But ultimately you do want to get divergent multiple totem support for the damage. Awakened multi-strike. Do I have to say more? It is awakened multi-strike. I don't have to say anything else. Awakened melee physical damage, which is incredibly cheap. Just takes a little bit to level, but then you also get intimidate on every totem, and we have multiple totems active. So on single target, this is pretty much always active. Same thing with the crush from awakened brutality once it hits level 5. I am not brave enough to hit level 6 here with a corrupt. I'm not going to do that, but you could and perhaps go even further beyond. Now, we have a typical cast when damage taken setup here with a Mortal Coil level 12. Quality 23, not important. It's just what I happen to have in my box because of all the Val templing that I've done. Life depth support because we want to make sure it doesn't take any mana. On top of the fact that we have a Berserk. This is a bit of a meme, or if you are doing bossing, like Uber bossing, you will see with my Leap Slam as to why you could use this. Let me show you. Phantasmal Leap Slam, which is incredible as well. Not mandatory, but if you want to maximize your movement speed and go even faster than the speed of light, Phantasmal makes it so that you go even faster because of the ult quality. Faster attack, I happen to hit 21, not mandatory. You just want to get faster attack 20 at least. Divergent rage is the key. If you look at the ult quality here, 20% chance to gain 1 rage when you use supported skill. So technically you could stand still and generate rage before a big boss. I don't really use Berserk at all during mapping, even against bosses in the maps or even in Delirium or anything. So this is really just for like Uber bosses or just big bosses you're trying to farm. Getting ready for maybe a Sanctum boss, for example. As well as less duration. This doesn't affect anything in the glove that is socketed, but it does affect the aspect of the cat skill. As you can see, it's cycling, and because it's less duration, it cycles quicker, and every single time we get the cat's agility, we gain our maximum number of frenzy and endurance charges. So this is just kind of an automated system that allows our frenzy charges to be up permanently. It's very comfortable. Things that are also comfortable, a portal gem. I don't know what else to put here. If anybody has a suggestion, I have a socket open by all means. A divergent clarity. We need a clarity to make our Watcher's Eye active, but also if you go by divergent clarity, which is very, very cheap, you just get some free damage. Why not, right? If it's cheap. War Banner 2120, just because of the wonderful things it does for us on this build. Increased damage, increased accuracy, just lovely stuff. As well as arrogance support, because we don't have the mana to basically hold these, but we do have a little bit of life that we can reserve. As you can see, it's very minimal because the banner doesn't cost anything, so that's free, and the divergent is very cheap because it's only level 1. We only need level 1 after all, because all of our stuff is free or costs life. So a simple sacrifice to make for what it gives on our Watcher's Eye. Now for the other big 6, Empower support level 4, Enlightened level 4. Maybe one day I will hold a level 5, but I've never done that in my entire existence, so I don't hold my breath. Anomalous Precision, which allows us to actually get precision in our build as well, which is for the accuracy, very important to do a keystone we're using, as well as increased reservation efficiency, facilitating this further. Haste, because gotta go fast. Val Haste, because it gotta go faster. And then on top of that, we have Pride 2120. Just a regular Pride, because the area of effect is too good. Allows us to affect more enemies, of course. As well as an Anomalous Herald of Purity. Not really important. It's just a little bit of quality of life, because the minions can taunt, and if the minions are taunted by, or if the bosses or whatnot are taunted by your minions, they're not going after you. So it's just a little bit of quality of life. The regular one is movement speed, so it doesn't really do much. But other than that, pop off, right? Those are the gems that we have socketed. All right, the passive tree. Buckle up. It's going to be a bit of a mouthful, but then again, we are used to having long men do a lot of work for us. Now, I am only level 88 at the time of this recording, so it is a work in progress. I will show you what my following levels are as well, but let us start at the beginning. Our Ascendancy champion, for the obvious reasons. We get the Fortitude, the Unstoppable Hero, obviously. Stun immunity is so quality of life. Master of Metal, we are an Impale build after all. And of course, Inspirational, because we do have many auras. How do we handle it? We're going right. I might switch this to left, because more strength notes means more tattoos that I want. But for now, we went right, and we worked our way to the Destroyer. A lot of two-handed weapon boons here, as well as the chance to deal double damage as a result of our Timeless Jewel. On top of that, we went to the right. We pick up a little bit of global accuracy. I may switch this to life nodes or maybe some other good stuff, since my accuracy seems to be okay right now. We do have a basic jewel socket here filled with a Watcher's Eye, a triple Watcher's Eye. The only two mods that are really important here are the non-channeling, have -10 to total cost, which allows us to not use 2 crafts on our rings, as well as the 2 additional hits for single target. Double damage is just the best alternative for damage, but there are other options, maybe permanent phasing and such. The lack of phasing in this build sometimes does hurt me in my soul. What doesn't hurt me is the +1 strength skill gems. We are already, it's probably one of our best options here anyway. We are also picking up some leech with very good reason, because we are a leech build. We're essentially a pseudo slayer. We also pick up the leech mastery. The reason why we are a pseudo slayer is because if you check the Forbidden Flesh jewel, we have brutal fervor, which is the overleech mechanic of the slayer. Speaking of the cluster itself, it's battle hardened, force multiplier, master of the fundamentals with some all res, not really important. I do plan to pick up force multiplier once I have the points. I also pick up precise technique. This is why we have so much accuracy in relation to our life, because we are not doing crit based. This gives us a massive amounts of damage. And I also plan to pick up, of course, thick skin for just quality of life health notes. These are a lot of value. They are 7.5 per point, which is just really, really good. Going down then to the Axe Mastery, we pick up Feller of Foes, more accuracy and damage, but also more importantly, enemies killed by your hits are destroyed. This gets rid of all those nasty detonate deads or porcupine effects and whatnot. You could also go with Onslaught if you feel you want to go faster. It is one of the things I will pick up later as well, but right now, since I'm still leveling and I don't want to get randomly killed, I went with enemies killed by your hits are destroyed. That's those blood explosions you're seeing, basically. We're also picking up Forceful Skewering, because more impale chance and effect, which allows us to get to 100% impale, including the mastery, which is more impales lasting a longer hit, which is very, very good for the damage. We're also picking up Assured Strike because we want to be long. My next point is going to be the mastery, the first one, 0.3 meters in melee strike range for longer range. We're also picking up, of course, before I forget, we get some increased totem damage here. We have Revelry, which is just helping with some effect on non-curse, but also more melee damage, and the mana that is required to run all the auras. We're picking up Savagery, because we are using the charges. Increased physical damage from the Timeless Jewel. We are using 14,290, which is one of the better ones out there. There is another one in the 1300s that seems to be okay, but you can use POB to figure it out. Another travel note that is strength. We turned it into melee strike range and picked up the endurance, and as well got double damage. Once again, that's probably one of the best mods or effects you can get through the Timeless Jewel for damage, other than actual damage. Speaking of cloth and chain, some resistance, some armor, not really important, but what is important is the 5% chance to deal double damage. That's why we're picking it mostly for that value. Golem's Blood as well, some good life. Regen doesn't really work in the late game because I'm planning to pick up Valpact in the future, so regen doesn't work, but for now it does, and we also get Warcry buff effect, which doesn't work for us, so it's kind of wasted in that sense. Other than that, we do get strength and of course the actual life values, which is 8 per point, which is probably some of the highest value you can get for 2. We pick up the totem tree, which is very good, all the way to Ironwood, going to top right, surveillance as well, Panopticon, which of course is a very, very strong node for totem builds. Totem mastery will be the leech, so now our totems are leeching. We have the overleech as well, and then 10% of the leech is instant. You can see how that sustain kind of comes together. What also comes together is that pretty much every strength note I have on my tree is changed to plus 0.1 meters to melee strike range. All these travel notes here as well to the top, which gives us also access to Storm Shroud, but corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you, which is very, very good. Also makes us elemental ailment immune because we have the flask with the shock avoidance, of course. Going down here, this may seem a little weird. It's because we have, once again, a loyalty tattoo. I believe this is a loyalty, or one of the tattoos that requires like adjacent passive skills. And this increases our maximum total life recovery per second from Leech. And since we have such heavy investment in Leech, that is very, very good. We do pick up some non-curse aura effect, which is really strong. This is unfortunately a wasted point, the sword's critical strike chance, because we're not using swords, nor do we use crit. But other than that, it is pure value. We also pick up Tribal Fury, because we are hitting multiple units with our totems. We have multiple totems hitting multiple units, and all those multiple totems hitting multiple units now also have Splash, which means that every single hit can hit multiple units. You can see how it destroys packs really, really quickly, while also giving the mastery for an additional nearby enemy hit. You can see how that scales out of control. We also have a defensive tattoo, loyalty tattoo of Utula, yeah, which is the, as you can see, a hit that removes at least 15% of maximum life is a savage hit. And then we get a buff that gives us more instant leech. So if we don't die, we essentially are full health immediately if our totems are working. And they are very capable of working because they have so much range and so much activation range as well. Pick up 2 points for Bloodless. Just good value. Another 8 life per point. And then here we have a very heavy, expensive cluster. It starts with a large one, Battle Hardened Force Multiplier, Mastered the Fundamentals, which is very stable. It's the same as over here. We have already picked up Force Multiplier, which I still have to do down there. Then we have a Totem Medium, Chaos, some Strength, Ancestral Guidance, and Snaring Spirits. Very, very good. Just get some more totem damage and some quality of life because it buffs the effect we get from the Ancestral Totem, as well as with Ancestral Reach on the other one, together with some all attributes, Chaos Resistance, we get some more damage, range for placement, which is very quality of life, more placement speed, as well as the ability to get a further effect on that buff, and our totems can't be slowed down either, which is very, very comfy. And now the most expensive part of the cluster, we have 3 passive mana, or at least increased mana reservation efficiency of skills. These are incredibly expensive. On top of that, we have good chaos res on them, and intelligence, and frantic aspect, which is the haste version, increasing the mana reservation efficiency there massively, as well as a destructive aspect, which is for pride, together with attributes and all res, just for a little comfy gearing. But as you can see here, increased area of active aura skills. The further pride goes away, or it reaches out, the better and more consistently the effect of pride is, which is very, very comfy. And on top of that, it's just incredible value and allows us to run everything without having to spec into something like increased mana reservation efficiency of skills here, or maybe even using an anoint, because right now we are using Harvester of Foes. If you want more speed, you could go with something like Fervor for another frenzy charge. If you want better reservation, you could go with something like Charisma, or maybe a cheaper one. There's options. Right now I'm running Harvester of Foes because it was cheap, and it does pretty much one of the more damage and chance or annoyance you can get at the moment for this build in its current state. I will recheck the calculation of that once I have reached 95 plus, but this is pretty much the build. As you can see, it has been incredible. Oh yeah, just a small note, if you're looking for a timeless jewel, since we're not using a keystone, it doesn't matter who is on it. This case is Rakiata, it doesn't matter. We're not using a keystone, right? Also, speaking of keystones, this one is just out of reach. I'm actually contemplating using tattoos for iron reflexes to maybe try to hit Ancestral Bond for a +1 totem. Gives us 25% more damage on single target, as well as a sort of kind of pseudo lingering effect for totems, because we can have more totems up, so there will be more totems around as we move on the map, giving us slightly more comfy clear. As I level up, I already mentioned that I will pick up another attack mastery here. I already mentioned I pick up the life. I'm also planning to pick up Hatchet Mastery, because then we can get the other mastery that I haven't taken yet, increased effective onslaught on you, and we're double dipping in that because of our unique helmet, of course. But that is pretty much it. That's gonna pretty much cap this character out. It's gonna be impossible to one-shot unless you are taking a very easily avoided move to the face. We have incredible potential for massive damage still to go with the tattoo, or just the wheels we have not taken yet. A lot of things to spike steel, more double damage. So I'm looking forward to how this build will go. It can handle all mods already. We're already juicing in tier 16 Val temples, regardless of all the mods, clicking all the altars without even reading them. And it's been a blast. It is a unique playstyle, totems. So if you enjoy that, if you can stomach it, it is an acquired taste, much like alcohol and wine, but there are plenty of alcoholics in the world. So there is a space for any build, and hopefully you may find something here to your liking too. Be inspired, go forth. I will see you guys next time.